Okay, so welcome to Point Blank, where we talk about issues that matter to you.
That's right, and tonight we are talking about foreign beggars.
Okay, before we fill you in on why I'm dressed like a bum tonight, we have with us in our living room Mr. Chia Boon Khiang, Director for Fundraising at the Singapore Children's Society, and Mr. Justin Lee, a Sociology PhD student at the University of California. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Welcome to Point Blank. So, Daryl, tell us, why are you dressed up like that, and why do I have to endure that smell?
Oh, because I feel that this is a very nice dressing. I've got all these like cool marks that shows that I'm real, you know. I am
entirely
somewhat
appropriate for the
real.
occasion.
No, but you know, okay, you'll find out more. Stay tuned.
Okay, can't wait. Well, anyway, moving on to the crux of the matter tonight. The Ministry of Youth, of Community and Development, Youth and Sports, MCYS, actually picked up 68 beggars last year, and out of this, about 40 were foreigners.
But do all, if not most, of these cases share a genuine need for shelter and support? Let's take a look.
Beg and you shall receive, or do you? Beggars in our midst seem to have full knowledge of the ways on how to cash in on the rich and religious here in Singapore. You might have seen some of them at hawker centres, temples and MRT stations. The number of beggars rounded up by the authorities rose sharply in the first 6 months of this year, with many of them being foreigners. And so has the number of reported cases of bogus monks, nuns, and those who disguise themselves as the disabled for profit. These foreign talents hail from faraway China and nearby Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. But what drives them to our shores? Are Singaporeans generous by nature, or are we just plain gullible? Either way, is compassion more of a weakness rather than a virtue in our case? Faced with a rising number of bogus beggars here, are Singaporeans forced to reconsider their values and their attitudes towards the seemingly weak and needy?
Okay, let's start with the very general issue. Okay, we'll ask turn by turn. So what do you think of beggars in Singapore?
Foreign beggars or local beggars? Foreign beggars. Well, basically I feel that there are quite a number of them. So personally I've seen them before. On a personal take, I might not donate to them.
But why? Why wouldn't you?
Maybe I would be encouraging. I would rather give to maybe a charity.
Okay, let's say if you're two, a local beggar and a foreign beggar, would you donate to either one of them?
Or make a difference? Or
if you had to make a choice.
Support local industry.
Support local industry.
Maybe what I'll do is based on situation. I might not just give them outright money.
Yeah.
I'll just might buy them a meal, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So paying in kind, sort of barter kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I don't know what they'll do with the money.
But you wouldn't know what the organization would do with your money either if you were to donate it to a charity, for instance.
They would. I would rather,
You
because if they are legally recognized, there are always avenues to actually check on the charity, be it through the net, through the annual reports or whatever.
Okay, let's move on to Mr. Justin Lee. What do you think of foreign beggars?
Right. Well, personally, I haven't seen a lot of beggars because the Singapore government is so good at getting rid of them when they see them. So I haven't seen any, but I figured that he's talking about local beggars and foreign beggars. So you see, I'll check their passport first. If they're local, then I give money. If foreign,
really? So you will support the local industries?
No, not really. But typically, I will, as a matter of habit and principle, I do not give donations on the streets, whether the buskers or the beggars or anybody else.
But buskers, at this point, I'll say that buskers are actually performing a service, correct? Yeah, so it's kind of like buying a drink,
Right. So except that some of the buskers, if you notice, it's kind of blurring the lines between asking for charity versus performing service. Because some of them, they will play up the idea that they are quite poor thing, you don't have an arm, but they play a musical instrument well, or, they play really badly. And sometimes they play badly so that people will donate to them. So I mean, it's kind of blurred whether this is really charity or this is performing a service.
Yeah.
I mean, there are musicians who are very good.
Yeah.
But they don't exist here. They exist elsewhere. You go to Santa Monica, I mean, those are professionals.
Yeah.
The ones we have here are...
So, I mean, like, I guess it's more like they will sort of jolt you out of it, like your train of thought, and then, you know, take notice of me because I'm playing like badly played music, and then, you know, then you take notice of them, like, you know. Okay, I think we want to move back to you, and we want to say that, okay, for charities, I think there's a concern about transparency.
Yes.
Correct? With regards to like what Celene has mentioned about how much of what we give actually go to. Yeah, so maybe you want to elaborate more about that?
Well, generally a lot of charities, there's no doubt that the operation cost is high. But if they are legally registered charities from National Council of Social Service, NCSS, or, you know, in any other MOH or whatever, they would have to have transparency. And being in charity myself, we are subject to audits every now and then. So our books are transparent, and we have to declare our takings and our spendings. So, and it's also governed by volunteers. So we don't make decisions on our own. It's actually very, very structured.
So how big would your organization be?
For us in Singapore Children's Society, we have about 106 staff.
Non-profit, right?
It's non-profit, and we run off like 9 centers across Singapore. Yeah.
Okay, so Justin, will you donate to a charity?
I will donate once I've decided, right, which charity deserves it. And it's typically a very difficult decision. Most people donate based on they know somebody who's autistic, know somebody who has breast cancer, and donate to that cause. But the problem with that is it's too emotional, right? You do it on a personal basis, and like I was telling you before this, right? People, when they buy a car, they're even more systematic and rational than when they donate to charity. They donate to the charity that has the best marketing ploy, or they donate to the charity that they know about. But what makes them think that these charities are more morally deserving of your cash? Because donating $1 here means nobody else can get that dollar from you. So you want to be able to make a decision, right? There's a moral opportunity cost from giving these resources to this group of people. But have you thought about what about the rest? And you better have a good reason that they truly deserve this.
Right. I think, okay, what do you think, Celene?
Back to the topic about foreign beggars here. What actually goes through your mind when you actually do see a beggar, and what is it about a person, you know, like in terms of his profile, that would actually make you want to donate something, want to give him something out of your pocket?
Probably how terrible of a life you think he leads, like, you know, some physical disability or...
Even then, that's all superficial, right? So you probably...
And I think most of the time people donate because they are made to feel guilty, right? That they have a good life and people do not. And most of the time people even avert their eyes and try to avoid these because it's like a reminder that you have such cushy middle class lives and there are these people around.
Outside our mind, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And at times, you know, I'm telling the truth when, you know, Saturday is a flag day, right? And the only reason why I would give money, not because, you know, I really care or know what the thing is about, but I give money so that they can get out of my way. I get a little sticker here, and it fends off other people from soliciting further.
Okay.
But if you ask me truly whether I care about that cause, I truly have no idea because there's not enough information. If I wanted to figure it out, then it would require a lot of systematic research, look at the different charities, then decide who is more morally worthy of that money that you spend.
Okay. What about yourself?
Well, it's quite biased if I were to say anything because I'm from the charity. But I think charity, by and large, different people have different pet charities. Some people feel strongly about children. Some people feel strongly about old people. But it all varies from person to person. So I would say that if I have $1, or rather a person has $1, which charity, it really depends on the individual. Where do you feel strongly? It could be even SPCA, you know, for animals.
It sounds like there are several niche markets, so-called markets within the charity industry. Would you say that?
No, but I think let's say foreign beggars and all that, they don't really have a website where you know you can find out more information about them. What you see is what you get. Basically, if they have scars or, you know, you just take in the information, you sort of juxtapose that, okay, you make a brief imaginary tale that this person has led this life to become who he is now or who she is now. And then you decide then, okay, do I feel sorry enough to give my $1 to, you know? But then I think a lot of people just do it because they don't want to think so much, you know, and they sort of want to let their conscience be at ease, you know. And I mean, like for your method where you exhaust all avenues of research, you know, I think that could lead to inaction.
Right.
Yeah, which could, you know, be against the principle of giving in the first place.
Right, I've talked about this to a lot of my friends and they all keep saying that, you know, well, people don't have the time or the luxury to find out about all these things, and you just have to go with it, you know, whoever you feel for, just give to, it's like what you say, you know, what you feel like people have their pet charities and you donate.
Yeah.
And what I think is, while that is fine, it's still a somewhat questionable way of doing things, because you actually have made a moral decision. As you give charity
pass
to
moral judgment and all that. Yeah.
To autistic children means you have said that, well, the breast cancer people don't deserve my money as much as the autistic children. And I know a lot of people who do charity, like my dad is in the Lions Club. And some of these people are very righteous about the cause they're after. You know, you look at these people, they're so poor thing, we should really do a lot for them, and they go ahead and they do it. But the question is, right, have you figured out who else you are not helping because you are helping these people? And that is an important question I think most people don't think about. They think, this is the act I'm doing, and I'm doing so much for this group of people, and that is valid in itself. But it is not valid in itself, because we live in a community with interactions with other people, other groups, so why this group?
Okay, I think we're going to go beyond the border and say, like, if not this group, why, like, foreigners as well? So, okay, hold that train of thought. We're going to go to comments. Savanti says, how do foreign beggars get here anyway? Tourist visa? If they have the money to get here, how can they be broke? So I think they're talking about how, like, you know, foreigners are also, like, there's a recent sort of, you see in Straits Times Online mobile print, and you see in, like, sort of newspapers that there are more sightings of beggars, like foreign beggars, and, you know, they run scams, like, you know, be it like monks and nuns or, you know, stuff like that. So if you encounter these, what would you do? Let's start with you.
Foreign beggars and pretending to be nuns or monks or whatever. Generally, on a personal basis, I don't donate to.
So you just ignore?
I'll just ignore. But then again, I mean, be it beggars local or foreigners, by and large, it's just a spur of moment, because it's not like I'm going to give him $1,000. I'm just probably giving him about $1 or $2 or whatever that I have, you know, as in loose change to just give. And just try not to think about that. Just feel that, okay, at the spur of the moment, you feel sorry for the guy, you just give him the money. And then you just don't think about that. I think that's the essence of giving.
Yeah.
Right.
But what about, like, sort of feeding the syndicate, so to speak? Because, like, you know, you hear a lot of these begging syndicates that they purposefully... Okay, these are some of the tales that I've heard. I'm not sure whether they're true, you know, like they take children out of their villages, cut off their hands, and then, you know, so that they grow up, like, really... And I'm sure, given that human nature is indeed a very capricious thing, so this could happen. So what do you think about that, like feeding the syndication?
In Singapore, I would like to think, I mean, I can't for certain say, but I would like to think that there's not such a syndication around. More rather, beggars, you know, do it like a vocation, like a profession. But in that sense, I would generally try to buy a meal, like do it in kind, rather than to give outright money. Because you don't want then, at the end of the day, the guy takes the money to drink or to gamble or to do something else. Yeah, so I would go for kind. I mean, you know, buy a meal.
Okay, Justin?
One of the things Singaporeans like to do is to pass the buck, right? If they think that crime syndicates, you know, or beggar syndicates, they think the authorities ought to do something about it. And this happens in all spheres, not just in charity. You know, they see this going on. They're not going to be the person who exercises street justice, right? Call them out on it or report. They're just going to let it pass and hope somebody else does it. Like, if you're in a cinema and somebody talks on the phone, very few people actually speak up.
And say, you know, hey, you're noisy, man.
Right.
Put on the phone.
What they do is they write to the authorities, they write to the cinema owners and say, okay, they should make sure that people keep quiet. But they're not going to be the one who like stands up and make sure that they do it the right way. But if more people do that, then the state can't be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So we have eyes on the street. If you see something that's not going down well, you do something about it. It's going to discourage people from carrying on.
Okay, let's say if you met a foreign beggar, what would you do then? Are you the exacting street justice kind?
And I have affirmed that he is, in fact,
exhausted all avenues of research.
Oh, as he's a real foreign beggar, or he's part of a syndicate?
Probably part of a syndicate.
Okay.
Foreign syndicate.
I would still call the police.
Yeah.
I would say, you stay here. I'm going to call the police. We're going to get you off the streets.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that. I'm not going to be the one who now actually does the help. But I do think, like you said, to pay in kind, that's the harder thing to do. Like, I have friends...
Okay, sorry to interject. Right. Because paying in kind involves a lot more effort,
right.
Because if you're going to give spare change, you just be like, okay, and that's it. But paying in kind, you have to go to McDonald's, buy a meal, come back, and,
If you approach in maybe a food court, then it's easy. But if you meet the guy along the street, then it's a bit tougher to do that. Because you still end up giving him money and you don't know what he's going to do with that money.
What if... no, sorry. I was thinking, what if he sells the meal and then gets the money and does something else? Okay, right. Celene, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know, but for me, I think it's really hard if you were to see a beggar and then, he has no limbs at all. It's such an emotive thing. It's more emotional rather than a sensible thing. It's hard to calculate whether or not he's real or whatever.
Yeah.
For me, I don't really care if it's a sham or bogus beggar, because I think what matters most is, to me, if I've been brought up to, show sympathy for the weaker ones, then I think the consequences don't really matter. I don't really care where my money goes to, so long as I know that this is what is good to me and I'm doing what's good, then so...
No, I think that's the essence of giving. I mean, it's like you just feel that you want to give. Frankly, donating money or helping someone is not really... you can't really get a return or you can't calculate a return for that. I mean, many a times we lend friends money, and sometimes they don't return.
Yeah, I remember those friends.
So, I mean, what more, if
yeah,
you just
but
pass.
I think there's a sentiment also that a lot of people do give to ease their conscience and, not giving a thought to where it goes, no accountability. They just want to feel good. And so they are actually paying for a service. They are giving money to feel good. I know I sound very cynical, but, I'm just wondering, putting it out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then again, there are the other group of people who exploit that goodness and, use it for other purpose. So.
Hey, but then again, there are people who volunteer time. So they don't give money, but they give time.
And time is ultimately very valuable.
To all of us.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're going to go for a short break. When we come back, more on beggars. So
Stay with us.